Hey, how you doing? Justin here, back with you for some more chord explorations. This time we are checking out the G shape, which is a real cool one. There are so many tasty variations that you can pull out anytime you have a G. You might already be familiar with the fact that there's a few different common approaches to playing G as a beginner. Lots of different fingering options. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why there's a particular preferred option if you want to get into lots of embellishment. So let's make a start on all of that now. So it's likely that many of you will have started learning your G chord like that, unless you learn with me, in which case you would have learned it like that without the first finger either, so just a two-fingered G chord. Now, as far as variations go on this, you've only really got lifting off the third finger. Little finger maybe could go down there, maybe, but this note sounds horrible. There's not a whole lot you can do with that grip. If you're not familiar with my beginner series, this note for me just makes things muddy, the G chord, so I prefer the sound of G like that. I think it sounds clearer than this. Just think it doesn't sound as good with that note down, unless you're doing like, in which case there you've got a kind of valid variation of hammering the first finger down. But this version of the G isn't the best one for if you want to explore the different chord shapes. Far better is to use third and fourth fingers. Now, for 100 different reasons, most importantly, we can actually play this whole... You can see we got that access to this whole scale while we're still holding that bass note down. So that gives us like a crazy amount of like melodic options, but there's a lot more that we can do with the chords as well. So let's start off with just the third finger and the little finger down. Okay, so it's third fret, then we're muting the fifth string. That's really important. We don't want to have that open A string ringing out. We want that muted. 3 strings open, and little finger down on the third fret of the thinner string. So let's look at adding some fingers now, the obvious ones first of all. So first finger down in the first fret of the second string is a G sus chord, holiest of chords. Really, really nice variation. Putting the second finger down, got a very specific sound. For most of you it won't be useful all the time, but it is it's got a pretty cool sound. It's got a cool name too. It's called the Lydian Mode, but that might sound like Greek to some of you. Useful, but probably not for most people most of the time. Much more useful would be putting the second finger down on the third string second fret. How lovely is this chord? This is a G add 9 chord, and it's just almost any time you've got a G chord, a regular G, you can pop this baby down. It's just really, really nice one. You can as well, for bonus points, you can put down the first and the second fingers together. So first finger in the first fret of the second string, second finger second fret of the third string. It's one of my favorites. I love that sound of that variation. Second finger also sounds great here on the second fret of the fourth string, which gives you a bit of a rock and roll thing like. And also, again, for bonus points, you can put your second finger down, second fret on the fourth string, and first finger down on the first fret of the second string. So it's almost like you're adding a C chord. Really, really lovely sound, that one. So as long as first finger's down, you've got second finger as well, or on the fourth string, either of those variations, or individually, they both work as well. So lots of nice stuff. You might have wondered about first finger going down in the first fret on the third string. It's not really very happening, and it's not happening on the fourth string either. It's just... Okay, I just heard that when I did it. There would be... There are times that you might want to try doing that, but putting that first finger down there does sound a little bit hazardous. It's kind of a G augmented sound would be the name if you wanted. Yeah, there's some mileage in that one, but it wouldn't be the kind of thing that you might put into a regular song if you were playing on a Knock on an Heaven's Door or something. That's probably not going to be a very sound variation that you're likely to draw on. I already mentioned this possibility of hammering on the second finger. You would normally lift off that third finger to get a bit of clarity if you were doing that. If you do that, you've got this option here of doing the C, the third fret. This would be a Gsus chord again. Oh, you'd need that. Technically you'd need this note C down as well, but that's really awkward. And it's, again, when we get into the technicalities of chords, I think it can get a bit overwhelming and a bit unnecessary, frankly. You just want to be listening to the chords that you're playing and letting your ear decide, oh, does this sound really cool or does this not sound really cool? It's a much better way to be, I think, rather than trying to do too much thinking. Some other really common variations that you might like with the G is lifting off little finger and putting the first finger down first fret. This is a G7 chord. Okay, G. Okay, first finger, first fret, G7. You can also put second finger down, which is a G major 7th chord. Hey, you can hear very clearly now this difference between a G, G major 7, G7, and actually we didn't talk about this yet, but just lifting off, so having the thinnest 4 strings open, this would be a G6 chord. Okay, so really nice, actually. That the complete movement, quite commonly used by people like the Beatles, where you've got this the movement between the major chord, the major 7, then a dominant 7th, and usually it'll go to the next chord. So it'll go to the C. In this case, it'll go G, G major 7, G7, C. So you get. It's the idea with the movement. If you're experimenting with major 7 and dominant 7th sounds, remember, I think it's just the best approach is just to listen to it and go, yeah, this one sounds good or this one doesn't sound good. There are technical reasons why you might choose a G major 7 over a G7. It's to do with the key that your G chord is in. There are more than one. I don't want to go confusing you now, but the easiest approach, rather than all of that theory, technical stuff, is just to listen. Listen to it and go, this one sounds good, I'm going to use this one, or this one doesn't sound good, I'm not going to use that one anymore. Much more effective and a much more musical approach than getting all mathsy on it. So just very briefly, just to open up a few extra doors for you, this idea of having the scale just use that as a little entry point for exploring other stuff. You can use any or all of those notes in any combination to try and find yourself some new interesting chord grips. Definitely if you're a writer, if you want to get into songwriting, you want to get creative with it, this is the kind of toolkit that you can really, really find some pretty interesting ideas that might be completely unique to you as well. You don't this one of the points of this series is to break you out of the idea that the chords are set. You know, when I was learning guitar, it always felt very restrictive, like you could never really play a chord unless I'd got it from a book or somebody had said you could play that chord. And it wasn't until way too late that I discovered that you could just muck around with the chords and try different things. And that was part of the point. That was that creative level. And it's not harder to be creative in that way. You don't have to be an amazing guitar player to do these variations. These are simple. These are lifting fingers off or changing the fret they're on. You're capable of doing that now. If you're doing my beginner's course, you've made it to grade 3, you're ready to be doing that. And you can get as creative as your imagination can let you be. So I would really encourage you, again, I mention it every time we're doing these Chord Explorer things, but it's really important that you try and put them into practice. So find some songs that you're learning that have got a G chord in them and see what happens if you try these variations. Any of the songs that you're familiar with, that particularly ones that you feel confident with doing it like a basic version. So if things do start to go wonky, if you try a variation, it doesn't sound good, you can immediately jump back to safe ground, to the regular chords, rather than trying to apply these to a brand new song. There are advantages to that too, but that's a story for another time. So I would recommend for your practice that you spend some time specifically focused on the G chord, like really just not moving from the G chord and experimenting with the different fingerings, trying to train your ear up to the sound of these variations, so you're linking your musical imagination with your hand, so that, when I hear this sound, my fingers know how to make a particular sound, help you with transcribing, help you with being creative. And then you should also, when you're doing your repertoire practice, when you're playing songs, try and spend a bit of time learning or practicing some songs, revising some songs that use the G chord, and then specifically trying to work these variations in and seeing what you can come up with, and get as creative as you can. I really hope you enjoyed this session. There's plenty more over on the website for all of the other chord shapes as well. Do go and check them out if you haven't already. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you for plenty more very soon. You'll take care. Bye-bye.